and welcome to this review of my Corsair K70 Max keyboard. Yes, another week, another K70. Previously, I reviewed their new K70 Core, which is basically a budget version of their well-known and widespread K70 keyboard, and this is the K70 Max, which is basically the exact opposite. It's a very upmarket model. Now, the Core didn't get a very positive review, as you might know if you've seen it, but this is more my kind of keyboard. And I think it's interesting to review them one after the other because there's an important point to be made here, in my opinion. Now, to kick things off, I'm going to give quite a bit of background and context to this K70 Max, which I think is rather essential if you want to truly understand this keyboard. But if you're not interested in that, click the timestamp in the description below to skip it. Now, a lot of people ask me, I want to buy my first mech keyboard, what should I buy? To which I pretty much invariably respond with, get something cheap and cheerful from China that isn't mechanical-like or hybrid or whatever, just a $40 shipped mech keyboard with a switch color that you think you might like. And there are three reasons for that. First of all, everybody likes something different, and if you've never tried a mech keyboard before, you probably won't know what that is. Second, you probably won't appreciate a very high-end keyboard anyway if you've never tried a low-end one before. And third, most premium keyboards are basically the same as those cheap keyboards, except with a more expensive logo on them. Now, I reviewed other K70s before, several years ago, and my conclusion was the same as with many MX-based, premium but basic keyboards, like the Razer Black Widow and many others. I don't think you can really market a premium keyboard that's just a Cherry MX board, or clone board, for $100+ without any special features, unless you're willing to pay literally 3 times as much for a maybe slightly sleeker look or a logo. This is not a great choice, as you're not getting something that's qualitatively better. In fact, many premium keyboards are arguably worse. It's too expensive to get as a starter tryout board and not special enough to be something you upgrade into after you've tried 1 or 2 basic mechs. So they're kind of pointless. And this is something that I absolutely nailed the K70 Core from last time to the wall for. You cannot charge premium money without giving anything in return. If you're a company that doesn't want to sell cheapo keyboards, as I suppose Corsair is, you have to provide the cutting edge. You shouldn't be able to just sell garbage for 3 times the price of the competition and get away with it. And that is why I like this product much better than the K70 Core, even though it costs more than twice as much, $230, discounted to $200 at the time of writing. The reason I asked for this keyboard to review is the same as the Corsair K100, which I also reviewed earlier. It uses contactless switches, although this uses Hall effect ones called MGX, rather than the optoelectric OPX ones like the K100 had. There are some small differences in how those two actually perform in the field, but the biggest difference is that it's much easier to add adjustable actuation in a Hall effect keyboard than in an optoelectric one, and they did add that to this K70 Max model, which is a major bonus over the K100, which doesn't have it. Now, contactless switches is, in my opinion, a reason to pay premium money, as that is something that you can't get on cheap-ass MX keyboards, and adjustable actuation even more so, as that's even harder to find. Not even all Hall effect keyboards have it. To elaborate, adjustable actuation means that you can make the switch actuate where in the key press you want. If you'd like a hypersensitive keyboard, you can stick it all the way at the top and it'll actuate from practically breathing on it. And if you don't, you can stick it more to the bottom. So you can tune it to whatever setting you like. This one can be set between 0.4 and 3.6 millimeters, so basically full range, which is nice. Personally, I think linear keyboards are at their best when they're contactless and have adjustable actuation. The contactlessness makes them ultra smooth and ultra reliable, and the adjustable actuation makes it so that you can tune them to your liking. They tend to be very light and effortless to type on, but with adjustable actuation you can make it so that they're not too sensitive, which is perfect. No matter how much or how well you lube your contact-based switches like Cherry MX, they'll never get as friction-free as good contactless switches. Of course, you can still lube contactless switches as well. Plus, they'll never have adjustable actuation, and that's why I think this is the sort of thing you should be offering if you want to charge top dollar for a keyboard. Now, adjustable actuation enables some extra features as well, most of them pioneered by Wooting. For example, dual actuation, i.e. being able to set two different inputs to two different depths of keystroke. For example, E if you press the E key slightly, and Shift plus E if you press it fully. That can be extremely useful for some types of game. They added this feature here as well, and also the ability to adjust when your key resets. So you can give it hysteresis for relatively faultless typing, or omit the hysteresis for if you want to be able to repeat tap a key faster. It's also got the rapid trigger function, which is another way to improve tapping speed. So, pretty gravy. An extra gravy feature is the per key adjustability, which means that you can set this value for each key individually. Now that's super great because it allows you to get the absolute most out of this feature. For example, personally I make WASD and the spacebar a bit less sensitive, so that the weight of my fingers doesn't actuate them, and caps lock I stick all the way at the bottom to make sure I don't accidentally press it, while keeping the rest of the keyboard very sensitive. Now, nothing is perfect, of course, and in this case the flaw is that the keyboard uses IQ, Corsair's configuration software. Normally this is mainly used for the backlight, but on advanced models it configures other things as well. For example, on the K100 it does the macros, and on this one it does the adjustable actuation. So, unfortunately there's no real way around it here. I've talked, well, ranted about IQ several times in the past, but they do keep updating it, and this is the first time I've had to do adjustable actuation on this, so I guess this is a good way to tell you folks whether it's still shit or not. And frankly, it is. The main screen is laid out very messily. It's even bigger in file size than before, 424 megabytes. There's no reason that a keyboard software would ever need to take up nearly this much space. It takes up over 330 megs of RAM when it's running, and worst of all, when you exit the program, it doesn't really save your changes, even when you save your profile to the keyboard. So, for example, I'll show you if I switch IQ off, the backlighting just turns off. So you need to have the software running all the time. That's just completely inexcusable. I can't believe that's still an issue. Now, apparently that's a bug. It is supposed to save it to your keyboard, and similarly I can't get the per key adjustability to work. If I change it for one key, it changes it for the whole keyboard, so I'm not sure what's going on there. These are supposed to work, but then again, IQ is so shit that I'm not surprised that it doesn't. I don't know what it is, but almost all keyboard configuration tools just absolutely suck ass for some reason. As for the build quality, it's very similar to a normal K70, except with a few extras. It comes with a detachable cable this time, finally, and thick double-shot PBT keycaps, which is nice. It still comes with a few dedicated buttons here and here for media controls, Win key lock, and some others, plus a volume roller, which is always nice. It doesn't have some of the extra features that the K100 has, like the macro keys and the menu wheel, but that's okay, better switches are worth something too. Massive rubber non-slip pads and cable retention gutters here as well, plus two-part feet so you can select what size you want, and they're spring-loaded as well, so that's pretty cool. I did notice that the cable retention is not great though if you don't put the cable in properly. The port is a bit sunken in, so you have to push it in further than you think, but it's fine when you do it. There's also a pro switch here, as they call it, that allows you to just turn all the IQ functions off for something if you flip it. Supposedly that's good for competitive gaming or something. I didn't really understand what they were on about. But the way the software says the positions worked, they're not marked on the keyboard by the way, is wrong. It's the exact other way around. But frankly, I don't really give a shit either way, to be honest. It comes with a wrist rest. Corsair love their wrist rest, and this one is much nicer than the one the standard K70 comes with, and way nicer than that crappy plastic one the K70 Core has. That one was practically an insult. This one is much spongier and cushiony than the standard K70s, which just has an anti-slip rubber coating. It's also magnetic, but I guess that's fairly standard nowadays. The styling is different from other K70 models. The aluminium isn't brushed anymore, so it looks like plastic now, which is a shame. But they did add this triangle pattern everywhere, including on the spacebar, which must be an interesting mold. The font is not great, it's still a bit cybery for my tastes, but it's better than their old one, which was much more aggressively cyber than this. Overall, I don't think it's as pretty as a standard K70 keyboard, of which the looks seem to be the primary selling point, but it's okay, I guess. I don't hate it. A major bonus compared to other Corsair keyboards is that this one is hot swappable, so you can swap out switches if they go bad, which is very useful for serviceability, very unlike Corsair in many ways actually. Now, Hall effect switches are basically the most reliable sensing method you can use for switches, hence why Hall effect switches are commonly used in aerospace and military applications among others, where extreme reliability and resilience is paramount. So swapping switches shouldn't be very necessary here, but still, it's very nice that you can if you want to. But how does it actually feel? Well, frankly, it's pretty damn good. The switches are almost friction-free, perhaps a little nicer even than the Opto ones in their K100, and full travel as well, which I like. OPX are a bit shorter travel. It's a little bit stiffer than most contactless keyboards. Many of those are extremely light, which is nice and effortless, but this feels more like a typical MX Red switch, except way, way smoother, of course. They sound a bit nicer than the Opto ones in the K100 as well, but that might also be a function of the chassis and the keycaps. Basically, in terms of smoothness, I'd say it's world class, and it's not even lubed, which a good switch doesn't need anyway, in my opinion. So overall, it's pretty good. Some niggles, of course, mainly related to IQ, which, like most keyboard configuration tools, is kind of handicapping this board, but basically it's a good product. This is much more the sort of thing Corsair should be focusing on, I think. Is it worth $230? Well, most full-size contactless keyboards with adjustable actuation are very similarly priced. The Apex Pro is also $230, the Wooting 2HE is $200, the Razer Huntsman is also $200, but that doesn't have adjustable actuation, and some other models are cheaper, but they're also smaller. So this price is justified, I think, and I'd pay the extra money for what it brings to the table. It's a good keyboard, looks like they finally came through. That's it for this review. Thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed it, and following is a typing demonstration of me typing on this keyboard.